Welcome to Wow in the Word, where we look at different wows which God put in His Word for us to find. The wow before us today is the resurrection of Jesus. It appears throughout the Old Testament and prophecies, but especially in the New Testament as the central thing that the early Christians believed. So, welcome to Wow in the Word, Street Edition. Pardon me, sir. Would you mind if I ask you just a couple of questions?
Sure. As long as it's quick, because I'm kind of on my way to something important,
Okay. First off, thanks for meeting me inside because it is really cold out there and I just don't want to be shaken while we're talking. So now, Christians celebrate the resurrection of Jesus every Sunday, especially on Easter Sunday. So what do you think? Did Jesus come back from the dead?
Well, it would be impossible to be sure of something like that, I mean, none of us were there if he did rise from the dead.
How did Abraham Lincoln die?
He was shot.
Who shot him?
John Wilkes Booth.
When?
April 14th, 1865.
Where?
In Ford's Theater, Washington, D.C.?
Were you there when Lincoln was shot?
Of course I wasn't.
So you weren't there, but you know that Abraham Lincoln died. You know who shot him. You know where he was shot. You know when he was shot. But you weren't there?
Yeah.
How do you know all that?
Well, I can look at the evidence and all the witnesses there line up.
So if you look at the evidence and you agree with the facts wherever they lead, then why don't you agree that Jesus came back from the dead?
Well, what evidence is there for Jesus rising from the dead?
There is a lot of evidence, if you're not too lazy to look.
Show me.
Well, the different parts of the New Testament were written about over 46 years. So the book of Galatians was written around the year AD 50, and the book of Revelation was written around the year AD 96. Most of the New Testament was written between those years, but definitely before the year AD 70. And in those texts, in those letters that Christians were sending around to each other to tell each other what was true, is reference after reference after reference after reference after reference to the resurrection of Jesus.
That proves nothing.
Actually, it does. It proves that one of the central beliefs, if not the central belief of the early Christian church, was that Jesus rose from the dead.
So?
That means everything hinged on the fact that Jesus came back from the dead. If someone wanted to destroy Christianity, all they had to do was prove that Jesus did not come back from the dead.
How could anyone have proved that he did not come back from the dead?
They just had to present the body of Jesus.
I bet Jesus' disciples stole it.
People who say that just don't know their history. You see, all of the early followers of Jesus were persecuted for the faith. Jesus' 12 closest followers all were tortured for the faith. John doesn't die from persecution. He dies as an old man, even though he shared his bit of torture. But all the other disciples, they were tortured to death, sometimes for hours, sometimes for days. All of them were tortured. And all they had to do, whether they meant it or not, is say that Jesus did not come back from the dead. Yet none of them changed their story. They suffered for hours, suffered for days, never changing their story. Who would die for a worthless lie?
Yeah, nobody. Certainly not all of them. Maybe the Romans took the body.
Why would the Romans take the body? They were the ones who killed Jesus. They wanted him dead, and they continued to kill Christians for the next 300 years.
Oh yeah. They wouldn't have kept the body hidden. Maybe the Jewish leaders stole it.
If they took the body, then they would have definitely showed people the body of Jesus, and they would have destroyed Christianity.
Maybe grave robbers stole the body?
Now, why do grave robbers rob graves?
To make money?
How much money would they have made if they just sold the body to the Jewish leaders?
The Jewish leaders would have paid them a lot of money so they could destroy Christianity.
So you agree that the Jewish leaders did not have the body of Jesus, right?
Yeah, they couldn't have had it.
You know the only other explanation for the body of Jesus being gone, don't you?
The body of Jesus had to have walked out of that grave on its own. But the Romans are really good at killing people, so I mean, he must have meant that he died. I mean, I can't see how he would have lived without with all that loss of blood and infection, even if he didn't die on that cross.
Yep.
So Jesus really did rise from the dead.
Yep.
The resurrection of Jesus really happened. Wow.
The Bible is full of wows, and I would call the resurrection of Jesus yet another wow in the Word. What about you? This Sunday and every Sunday at every church on earth, Christians are going to get together to celebrate the resurrection of Jesus, one of the guaranteed facts of history. So join the party. Give church a shot. I guarantee that you have nothing more important to do. Until then, check out some of these wows that you might have missed.